goes out. So Krishna in the second chapter brings out the whole Bhagavad Gita, right? Then one would presume that once Krishna has mentioned the whole summary, Arjuna would understand it. But Arjuna was still on a bodily platform. He was still thinking of everything from a bodily platform. So that was still a mistake. So you can see from his question that just like sometimes we try to extract out the whatever is favorable for me from any discussion and try to present that. So Arjuna was doing exactly the same. Krishna told him in one verse, tell him that Turena Avram Karma, that stay away from tainted work. And so he said, oh, I should not fight. And then in one point, Krishna says, fight. So Arjuna is confused. So he asked Krishna, what should I do? So third, the name of the chapter is Karma Yoga. So Karma Yoga in practice. How do you bring Karma Yoga into your life? How do you practice it? Okay. Chapter 4 is Transcendental Knowledge. Chapter 5 is again Karma Yoga. But that's Karma Yoga in perfection. And then the 6th chapter is Dhyana Yoga. So these first 6 chapters are a separate section of Bhagavad Gita. And the next 6 chapters are Bhakti Yoga, the last are Jnana Yoga. So different of them, all of them. So yes. So that was the overview of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, 2, and 3. So we are in the 3rd chapter. So over the last week, I've been discussing with Sankirtanagya Prabhu how this progression is happening and the 3rd chapter is moving forward. There was something that I just wanted to bring out to all of us. So yes, I just wanted to bring out one thing. So if you're reading Prabhupada's purports, you would realize that Prabhupada brings out Krishna consciousness in every single purport he talks about. So he brings out, can everybody please mute themselves? I'm just getting some echo. Okay, thank you. So yes, so when you read Prabhupada's purport, he brings out Krishna consciousness in every place. He will talk of Krishna consciousness even when Krishna himself is talking about Karma Yoga. So somebody can ask you this question, that why is Prabhupada's Gita, when it's obviously not as it is, how can Prabhupada call it as it is? This can be a question somebody can ask you. Somebody asked me this question a few years ago. So I kind of picked around a bit and found why Prabhupada does that. But it's a question that anybody can ask you. Prabhupada calling the Bhagavad Gita version as Bhagavad Gita as it is. But then in verses where Krishna is talking about Karma Yoga, in the 6th chapter, 11th verse, 12th verse, Krishna talks about you should sit this way on a kusha mat, do this for Dhyana Yoga. And there also Prabhupada gives Bhakti Yoga, talks about Krishna consciousness. So to understand that why Prabhupada still calls it as it is, we'll have to understand we have to understand it in terms of its essential purpose of Bhagavad Gita, not just necessarily in terms of linguistic technicalities. Okay, so let's look at it at a few levels. And I just wanted to bring this out because this is a very common factor, and this can be a source of confusion if you don't understand this. That why is Prabhupada talking about Bhakti Yoga all the time? Why is he bringing it in every single purport of the book? Whereas Krishna is not talking about that aspect yet. So let's look at it from a couple of aspects, couple of levels. So first thing to understand is that what is the essential purpose of Bhagavad Gita? That's something to ask ourselves. Then how do we know it? Okay, and we know it by what Arjuna does after the war. Does he become a Dhyana yogi? Does he become a Jnana yogi? Right? No. Arjuna in the 10th chapter, when we reach there, he accepts it. The 10th chapter, verse 12 and 13, I think. Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam, Adidevam Ajam. He accepts Krishna as the supreme personality of God. And further in the 18th chapter, Arjuna says, Karishe Vachanam Tava. Sthito Asmi Gata Sandhe Karishe Vachanam Tava. That comes towards the end of the 18th chapter. What that means is that I am beyond all doubt now, and I'll do exactly as you have asked me. And that is the attitude of a devotee. So supremacy of bhakti as sadhana and supremacy of Krishna, Bhagwan as sadhya, goal of sadhana, is established in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, and that's how Arjun lives his life. So Bhagavad Gita is a book in terms of the ultimate purpose of transformational power of love, right? So of understanding that when we seek to love God back, our life completely becomes transformed. We get a very enriching version of life. And that is the vision that Prabhupada gives us. That is the vision that Bhagavad Gita ultimately gives us. Right? The attitude of a devotee. Right? Sthito asmi gate gati, sthito asmi gata sandhe karishe vachanam tava. That is the goal that all devotees should have. That my doubt is completely eliminated, Krishna, and I will do exactly as you want me to do. So Arjun became a devotee. Well, he was already a devotee when he was acting, but then just for our reference, he became a devotee after listening to Krishna. So that is one reason. So the essence of Bhagavad Gita is Krishna consciousness, and Prabhupada is bringing that in each and every purport. And I'll talk about why he does that. Okay. Another aspect to look at it, that some people even look at it from a linguistic perspective, right? So if you see, for an example, let's say there is a doctor and there is he's referring to a medical book, a medicine book on medicine in Chinese, and he's doing his all the procedures based on that book. And now he translates the book into English versus a person who's a linguistic expert in Chinese, he translates it. So who's going to have a better version? The doctor, because the doctor knows what he's talking about. He knows the essential purpose of the book. Okay, so the doctor's translation will be more reliable. In terms of grammatic precision, linguistic expertise, might be the other person might be doing it better. But from a practical transformational capacity, from a practical aspect, doctor's translation will be better, right? So when we want to read a book like Bhagavad Gita, we have to approach not a linguistic expert, but those who have applied the principle of Bhagavad Gita, fully imbibed it, sharing the love of Krishna, which Prabhupada himself experienced, and he's sharing it with others. That is why Bhagavad Gita, it is as it is. Okay. Another aspect to look at it is that if Prabhupada wanted to cheat people, he would have never given the word by word meaning of in there. Okay? He's not hiding his strategy at all. If he's translating karma yoga as bhakti yoga, he wants the whole world to know that idea. He wants the whole world to it. And so on top of this, when he says it as it is, he forces us to think that why is this person calling this book as it is, right? If his idea was to mislead us, why would he give a word-to-word description in the Bhagavad Gita? Okay, so that's why Prabhupada, he made it very clear that the principle of Bhagavad Gita is Krishna consciousness, and he wanted to give it at every single point. And why did he do that? It was out of compassion. Bhagavad Gita is a very complex philosophical book, and it was written in a very specific cultural, intellectual framework. Okay, the background that Arjun had is not available to us now, right? For people to first develop that intellectual capacity, understand the cultural background, and then understand the context of Bhagavad Gita as bhakti will be a tremendous challenge. And that people can very easily lose interest. Prabhupada made sure that people get the conclusion in every purport they read. And Prabhupada himself is aware of the flow of Bhagavad Gita. He's an expert himself. Okay. So sometimes some Mayavadis would question Prabhupada. Swamiji, you have brought Krishna, even though Krishna's name is not even in the verse. So Prabhupada would very tauntingly tell them back that you Mayavadis, you have removed Krishna from the places where he's supposed to be. So I have done this to compensate for that. And the most famous verse is 9th chapter, the last verse of 9th chapter. Man mana bhava mad bhakto mad yaji mam namaskuru mam evashyasi yuktaiva atmanam mad parayana. Krishna is using the word mama, me, 6 times. What do the Mayavadis say? No. It's not Krishna whom you have to pay obeisances to. You have to pay obeisances to the Lord sitting in his heart. People have so many ulterior motives. Somebody has this political view, somebody has some other view. So all those views, they put their own ulterior views in Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada never did that. The ultimate conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is Krishna consciousness, and Prabhupada made it sure that if anybody, whatever fast-paced rat race life he or she is living, he can get the essence of Bhagavad Gita by reading even a single page of it. Right? And Prabhupada never shied away from it. Prabhupada very clearly told everybody, this is what I'm doing. Whereas, even in our own Gaudiya Vaishnava culture, lineage, there are acharyas who have written commentaries exactly as Krishna is mentioning. If Krishna is talking Karma Yoga, they have said it's Karma Yoga. Right? Baldev Vidyabhushan is one of them. You can read his commentary. He says it that way. Prabhupada refers to all those commentaries, right? But then he never says that other versions are wrong. All he is saying is that he is giving the essence in a very consistent and consistent fashion. Right? If one wants a progressive conclusion as Krishna is presenting, people can read other versions. But rest assured that nobody has become a devotee by reading those other versions. When Prabhupada did this version of Bhagavad Gita, there must have been around, I think he says in introduction that there were, I think, 600 versions of Bhagavad Gita floating around. None of them could make a single devotee. And here comes a 70-year-old man with a very thick Bengali accent, and he converts all these Americans, Europeans to devotees. Why? Because whatever he was presenting was from the right context. Okay. So I just wanted to bring this principle out, because when you read Bhagavad Gita, you will see that the purport, but the translation might be saying something, and the purport might have something about Krishna consciousness. And this confusion can come in your heart also. And the purpose of Bhakti Sastri is to get rid of all the confusions and have a Sudrid Mana, that your intelligence becomes so strong that all your fears are eliminated and you are, ready to push for this movement, to push for this philosophy. We all are Prabhupada's foot soldiers. Okay. Any thoughts or any questions, any comments on what I've just spoken? This is an important aspect. I wanted to bring it out. Thanks to Sankirtan Prabhu, I've been discussing it with him over this last week. I'll take a pause here for a minute. All clear? Okay. Okay. So in general, if you try to classify the sort of people out there, let's just look at Prabhupada disciples. Okay. Prabhupada disciples were also can probably be not necessarily disciples. The people who were around when Prabhupada was pushing for this movement. They were one who were looking for spirituality, and they were looking for it to such an extent that they left their homes. Okay. So that's one category of people. Then there's a second category. They are interested, but they're not sure what spirituality is. Okay. And there's a third category who don't want spirituality. So you have somebody if people are on a number line, on the positive, people who want spirituality, who are desperate for it. On the neutral, they're interested, but they don't know what spirituality is. And on the negative, people who don't want spirituality. For the third, forget about it. You cannot teach them Bhagavad Gita. You can just push them on the path of bhakti by giving them some prasadam or letting them keep some books at home, but gives them some agyat sukha. But then the second category, which there is a majority of them, they are the ones who need to know the essence of Bhagavad Gita in a quick fashion. That is why Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita fits perfectly right in there. Who are interested in spirituality but don't know what it is, and they're not in the mindset where they can invest a lot of time. They don't have that inclination. So that is why the second category of people, which makes a significant portion of the people out there, they can benefit so much from Prabhupada's Bhagavad. So that is why Prabhupada wrote the Bhagavad Gita in this fashion. And he's not shying away from it. He's not hiding it. very clear. This is what I'm doing. If you want to understand the progressive path of Krishna, our conclusions he's giving, you can read other words. Okay, so now let's move to our Bhagavad Gita. So we did up to 24 last week. 25. So this is a very important section. There's some very, very important verses. A couple of them for you to memorize also if you want to. So let's start with the verse number 25. Let's see where did we end last time. Verse number 24 says how that carries forward. So okay, so 24 ended where Krishna is giving examples. One is of Janak Maharaj and the other is of himself. That how he, even though is not meant to do any duties, he is still doing his duties. He's acting as if he's a mortal being. Why? Because he's a leader and people look up to leaders and they follow them. So if he does something wrong, people will do that too. So that's where we ended. Okay, so now coming to verse number 25. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment for the sake of leading people on the right path. Okay, so this purport, so this is 25. Okay, let me go back to the table I was showing. So let's look at this table. And this is coming from Prabhupada's purports for all of them. So Prabhupada is saying that now there are two kinds of people we talked about earlier here. So 25 verse, 27 and 28, that gives the differences between the attached and detached workers. So we're going through that section. One differentiating factor for the people is that people who are attached, they desire their own sense gratification. And a person who are detached, person who are attached, they desire their own sense gratification. People who are detached, they desire Krishna's satisfaction. Okay. So people who are in a attached mode, who are very much attached to material life, they are convinced that they are doing everything. Right? In the 16th chapter, when we reach there, Krishna gives the qualities of demoniac people. And one of the qualities is that person says, Ishwaroham aham bhogi, siddhoham balavan sukhi. That Ishwaroham, that I am the doer of everything. Ishwaroham, I am the doer, aham bhogi, I am the enjoyer. Okay? Ishwaroham aham bhogi, siddhoham balavan sukhi. I am siddha, I am perfect, I am balavan, I am the strongest. So that's the quality of a person who's been deluded by material nature. A detached worker, he understands that he's in a very precarious position. Right? He's in a weird situation. He's frustrated because we are not a part of this world and this frustrates us. Then knowledge of identity. The person who's attached, he does not know that the body is produced by material nature, and then he does not know that he's under control of Krishna, whereas the person who is detached, he understands what his position is, what his true identity is. Attached worker is always using all his resources for his personal sense gratification, whereas a detached worker is always using it for Krishna's service. And what happens for the attached worker is eventually he goes deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole and he forgets Krishna completely. Whereas the detached worker is going up and higher and he gets liberated and he goes back home, back to Godhead. So this is kind of something I just want to go through this, but then because in the purport it becomes very hard to delineate these details. But I just want to mention here that Krishna is, the Prabhupada says, differentiated by different desires, as I mentioned there, it's being talked about. Okay, so let's 25. So as I mentioned last time, that when you come to Bhakti, you come to spiritual life, you will be observed under a telescope and a microscope. Does anybody remember what do people look under a telescope if you are when you come to spiritual life, and what do they look under a microscope? Anyone? Give it a try. Anyone give it a try, please.
I can give it a try.
Sure, please go ahead.
Under the microscope, I might want to look at the subtle changes that are happening within me. So I would want to scrutinize my own actions and, how Prakriti is affecting my own decision making. very, very scrutinizingly. That means microscopic level.
Hmm.
Telescope is good. Is something that I couldn't imagine. Like, Krishna is very, very far away from me, and I would like him to be in one arm's distance, like he was with Arjuna. Uh,
That was the leadership sutra we went through in verse 21 of Bhagavad Gita. So what do people do is, when you become a leader, you become a public figure, they use a telescope for what you are doing externally in this material. Like, what are you doing, showing around? So telescope means they don't worry much about it. They're looking at it as if it's very far off. But what you do in private, they look at it under a microscope. They just enlarge it so much. That's what I mentioned about telescope and microscope. So anything you do externally, people will not worry about it. But one wrong thing you do in your private life, people are just going to blast you off. So that's where the microscope and telescope comes in, and the analogy comes in. So that's what the challenges of being a leader, that you're always under scrutiny, especially for your private life. That's the big challenge for all of these people, right? For example, if you see everybody who's a leader, right, movie stars, they might do 15, 20 good movies, but once they're caught with smoking weed at home, that just tarnishes their whole image. Many movie stars have been through that. So that's the way the common public treats leaders. So you have to be good internally and externally. Okay. So when you come to spiritual life, you'll be observed under a telescope and microscope, right? But then what is it? So Krishna is asking us to be exemplary, and he's giving examples. Okay. So what is it that makes us unexemplary? What is it that makes us fall off that path? And that is lust. And that's the last section of this chapter, which we'll go through, verse 35 to 43. Arjuna asked this question that, how does this lust develop in heart, and so on and so forth. So we'll go through that. So that's also coming up. So lust is what makes us unexemplary. Okay, we want to enjoy God's kingdom without God, right? Desiring things is the root cause of all our misery. So as we read the second chapter, right, lust when fulfilled, it becomes greed, and if it's not fulfilled, it turns to anger, right? So, yeah, okay. So you all are leaders in your spheres of life. So you all have to be exemplary. For example, you all are attending this class in the middle of the week. Some of you might have kids at home, and they're looking at you, and they're realizing that how learning is an ongoing process throughout your life. So you are setting an example for your kids also, right? So now in this verse, Krishna is giving us a way by which we create trustworthiness amongst the masses who are still on a bodily platform. Okay, so this is the essence of this verse that we just read. An ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results. The learned may similarly act, but without attachment, for the sake of leading people on the right path. Two things being talked about here: affectionate and being attached, right? So what Krishna is telling us, you can be affectionate to the common people. Why? Because you're serving as a leader to them, but don't be attached to that situation. Whereas an ignorant person, they're attached to it. So that makes it a very sticky situation for them. Okay? So we read the 3 Ds, right? Being dutiful, detached, and devotional, right? So just like a lotus leaf. So lotus leaf, if you observe, it has a coating on its surface. It doesn't let water stick on it. So a devotee's mind is also coated with something of that sort that doesn't let material desires stick. They slide away. So by being detached and dutiful work, that will result in devotion, and that will give us liberation. So Krishna is saying that a person who become a devotee, who becomes Atmaratya, he or she doesn't let anything stick to them. They don't get attached to anything, but they never give up their duty. So that's the difference Krishna is mentioning here. That how you can create trustworthiness among the common masses, that you also perform the way they are acting, but without attachment. If suddenly I say that I give up my family and I become a sannyasi, then people are going to ridicule me. They'll say, see, how does the spiritual life spoil the environment of the society? There are people who just leave their families, for which they were responsible. They leave their kids out and mortgages to pay, bills to pay, and they just walk away from that. So they call us cowards. That is why, to create trustworthiness among the masses who are still on the bodily platform, we be affectionate to them, we live our lives, but we don't get attached to that activity. Right? A very good example can be given that how kids, they know that the parents are attached to them. So they know that the parents are affectionate, but they also know that the parents are attached to them. And then they start throwing tantrums in the middle of the mall. Okay? They start screaming their lungs out, just rolling on the ground, embarrassing their parents. And so kids know that my parents are attached to me, so they can take undue advantage for their benefit. But the same kid, when he or she is at school, he might throw the same tantrums, but the teacher, even though the teacher is affectionate, but it's not attached to it, right? So that way the person, that the kid cannot do anything. Okay, but the teacher is affectionate but not attached to me. So that tantrums don't work there. So that's the difference we have to understand. That's what is being taught here, right? So we are attached to the material world, and we are attached to such an extent that people don't even know what to do when they retire from our lives. Right? So karma phala and karma sakti. So yes, there are two things that are being talked about here. Sakta. Sakta is attached. The word sakta means attached, being attached. And then there's the verse. Where is that? Asaktas, not being attached. Okay. And then vidvamsho. So Krishna is calling that person who's attached avidvamsho, ignorant. And the person who is not attached as vidvams. So this is also a kind of a poetic way of presenting that you're using similar words in the same words. So that's also something. So devotees also work on this with this principle. So they are not attached to whom they are distributing this message. They're doing it as a duty to Krishna. That's the essence coming out from here. So when many of you reach out to your friends, family members, you don't do it that, oh, I'm going to convert this person into Krishna consciousness. No, you don't go with that attitude. You just go with an attitude, and I'm here to help. I'm here I'm serving as the instrument for Krishna. I'm just going to distribute the message. If the other person doesn't receive it, I can't do anything. That's between him and Krishna. I can't do much here. Right? When we go for book distribution, out of the 10 doors you might knock, 9 might not open up. You can't do anything about it. You just do your duty and you come back. Yudhishthira was given the entire planet to rule, but then the moment he heard that Krishna has left this planet, he just leaves everything and walks away without a second thought. So he was affectionate to his duty, but not attached to it. So and that's what this section is about, the difference between karma kanda and karma yoga. One is binding, other is not. Right? And those two categories are compared. Shaktas are vidvams and sakta and vidvams. So yeah, did I mix that up? It's sakta and avidvams, and vidvams and asakta. Yeah, okay, I got that. Yes. So that's what it is about, right? That's the both of them are working, but different in consciousness, and subsequently different is the consequence. In consequence, what they get out. So here, till now, Krishna gave examples that live life as an exemplar, and now he's giving that why you should live life as an exemplar. Because this is what happens. This is the way you're supposed to live your life. So Krishna is giving more details here now. Okay, let's go to verse 26. So as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to the fruitive results of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. So when Prabhupada, listen, bro.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Sorry, Prabhuji, on the 25th, actually, I'm a little bit confused. Like, when it says that the Krishna conscious person is required to show the people how to act. Why we need to show, actually? The Krishna conscious people are not showing anybody anything. They are just following that. So I got confused with this aspect. Like, we are doing this thing not to show anybody. We are just doing for ourselves. Now it is up to, like, reflection maybe happen to the various people, like, whatever the impact. But why it is said here, like, it is required to show the people how to act and how to engage the result of the action.
Because the person, it is coming from a platform of compassion. Let's presume you're walking on the street and there is one person right in front of you. He's so much into his phone that he forgot that he's in the middle of the road. And you can see there's a fast car coming on the other end. Will you save that person or not? The answer is yes. You will save that person. You'll pull him back. So the question would come that, why are we required to, help that person? Why? Because people are so engrossed in the material, they don't even know what is good for them. That is why a Krishna conscious person has to show how to act, how to engage, how to live your life, so that others can learn from you. And when they learn from you, they can also elevate in the path. And it's coming completely from a platform of compassion. That's all. There's no other reason. And compassion also, it comes to somebody, the compassion comes when we realize that everybody is Krishna. Unless you don't see a relationship to others, yes, you will not want to help them. Why do I need to help others? But when somebody, if it's your family member, then you want to help everybody. Why? Because you see a relationship to that person. But for a person who's on the Uttam Adhikari platform, the topmost platform, he's not looking at bodies. He's just looking at Krishna everywhere. Right? So when he's looking at, what's that verse? It comes in the 5th chapter, 18. Brahmane gavi hastini, suni chaipa supakecha pandita samardarshina. So Brahman, Gava, Hastini, that a cow, a Brahman, he sees everybody Samadarshina. He's seeing everybody as Krishna. That is why then you will show, right? You want to serve as an exemplar for your children, right? You can ask this question: why do I want to show my children how to live your life, how to engage in the right way?
I'm looking, Prabhuji, in the other way. Like, my thought is like, your example is fine. Like, that's in that situation. But I'm just reading this as a show, like, why to show who you are. Like kids also, like, technically people should not show off, like, hey, I did that, like, so I'm looking in that way. So whatever we have to do,
you're thinking about the word show. Well,
exactly.
it's not from a show off perspective. It's not from yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sorry about that. So I was reading this sentence in that way.
Oh,
Why
yeah,
we need to, like, showing the people actually, rather than, we need to do that. People like automatically attract when you have some good behavior or good, like, Krishna consciousness activity. It's like a magnet. People will automatically go. If the moment the attitude comes, I'm showing, then, like, it's kind of now it is like, ego is coming there, like, hey, look at that, look at me, or something like that.
No, so yes, the word show here is not being used as that you go and walk an extra length to show off. It's just merely means to present yourself in that. That's what it's not connected to being a show off.
Got it.
That's not what Prabhupada means here.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Yes. So it's not about showing off. It's just that when you go out, you're presenting yourself in a way that people can get inspired by you and see you as an exemplar, and they follow your path. That's what Prabhupada in essence means. Thank you for bringing that out. Okay, so we are at 26. So as not to disrupt the minds of ignorant men attached to fruitive results of prescribed duties, a learned person should not induce them to stop work. Rather, by working in the spirit of devotion, he should engage them in all sorts of activities for the gradual development of Krishna consciousness. This is a very important verse. Very, very important verse. This teaches us how should we act, and especially for all the people who are doing externally facing services. What I mean by that is when you are always in touch with people who are not yet practicing spiritual life, this is very important for us. Okay, so Krishna is saying that don't disturb them, right? When Prabhupada came to US for the first time, all his followers were drug addicts, right? To come off that effect, you cannot just even imagine, right? Right now, our temples are such sanctified areas. When everything started, drug addicts would come in the morning to Mangal Aarti just to, because it would help them to come off the effect of the drugs that they had taken yesterday night. So it was so Prabhupada had a very different scenario there. He had such deep ignorance being exhibited there. But what did Prabhupada do? He didn't say that, oh, I am a Brahman, I am a Vaishnava coming from India, I'm a sannyasi, stay away from me, I'm not going to talk to you. Prabhupada would cook for them. Prabhupada would give classes. Prabhupada would love them as much as he can. And that's the quintessential emotion that we can take from Prabhupada. Even if we can get 1% of that, we will be able to help so much, and we will actually change our own lives also. So Prabhupada was so compassionate towards the other. He never would tell them that, oh, why are you not clean shaven? Why are you not taken a shower today? No, he picked them up wherever they were, and then he gradually took them forward. So that's what it means, that he was never going to disturb them. He was never going to tell them that, stop smoking right now, otherwise you're not eligible to come to the temple. He never said that. Otherwise, this movement would have never existed. Okay. For example, I'll give you a couple of examples. George Harrison, you all know George Harrison was a very big follower of Krishna consciousness, and he was so popular. He was so popular that on his birthday, truckloads of greeting cards would come to him to wish him, and obviously, probably 99% of them would be girls. So, but he was very close to Prabhupada. At one point, he presented this desire to Prabhupada that, Prabhupada, I want to get initiated. Prabhupada said to him, it is better you don't become a Hare Krishna externally. Right? Just imagine, here is Prabhupada. He has these kids coming in, 17, 18, 20-year-old kids coming in, and he's saying, okay, shave your head, take initiation. 6 months, you are initiated. And here is a superstar who's coming and he's asking for initiation. Prabhupada saying, no, don't take initiation from. Don't change yourself externally. Okay? If people see you connected to a spiritual organization, you will lose the connection you will have with the followers. That's what Prabhupada told George Harrison, right? And then you all know after that, Sastri, he sang so many songs, My Sweet Lord, and he sang many songs with Yamuna Mataji, with Shyam Sundar Prabhu, and they all were hits. Within a very short period of time, practically everybody in Europe and America were chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, right? So what Prabhupada did, and if you see this verse, he didn't stop them from their work. He didn't stop George Harrison from his work, but he engaged them in whatever activity he was doing. He was very good at singing. Prabhupada said, use this singing for Krishna's purpose. Even if you're ready for initiation, don't take it, because if you take an initiation, people will see you connected to a spiritual organization and they will stop following you. Then there will be a disservice to Krishna. So Prabhupada knows where to take, whom to take, and how to take them forward. Another very important example comes up Peter Burwash. Peter Burwash was a tennis player. So Peter Burwash got a chance to meet Prabhupada for a few hours, and he mentioned this many years later in talking to devotees, that those few hours that he got one-on-one with Prabhupada, that changed his entire life. Peter Burwash was an excellent tennis player. He had, I think, 19 titles to him, 19 single titles to him. And as a matter of fact, he just died recently, July this year. So he got to meet Prabhupada for a few hours. And you'll not believe it that he was a tennis player. When he met Prabhupada, Prabhupada was telling him how to do management consultancy in the future. Okay, so just imagine there's a tennis player, and Prabhupada is telling him about management consultancy. And they just confused that guy, confused Peter, because he was a tennis player. What happened later on, one day, I think it was his 20th title. I'm not fully sure, but there's one of the titles. He was standing on the ground and the other person on the other end was about to serve. And Peter Burwash saw that there were ants on the ground where he was standing. And he took a couple of steps back, just so that he immediately remembered what Prabhupada had told him, that we should not put others in distress for our own benefit, to satisfy our prestige and greed. That came to his mind. He took a couple of steps back. And because of that, he lost that serve and he lost that game. Okay. And then after that, the story goes that he became a very famous tennis management guru, but also not just tennis, but he would guide people about life and health also. And he was extremely successful. But the essence there was that if Prabhupada wanted, Prabhupada could have converted him also to Krishna consciousness. Say, oh no, you leave everything, you come and become a devotee with him. But no, Prabhupada didn't do that. So people, acharyas, they know how to use a person at whatever stage he or she is. Right? So Prabhupada had this oceanic capacity to appreciate others. Okay? If someone would light a matchstick, and in a dark room, Prabhupada was so appreciative. Prabhupada would make him the head of the state electricity board, probably something like that. Right? That was the empowerment Prabhupada had. That was the appreciating capacity Prabhupada had. Right? There was once a devotee whom Prabhupada asked, "Do you know anything about magazines?" On the disciple, they casually said, "Yes, Prabhupada, I've read a couple of them." He said, "Oh, okay. From tomorrow onwards, you are the editor-in-chief of the Back to Godhead magazine." Okay. So what I want to kind of establish with these examples is that Prabhupada knew how to use which person at every place. Okay. And he knew how to dovetail their intelligence, whichever position they are. They might be in a mode of ignorance, passion. Prabhupada knew how to use it. And we all should learn that quality, right? Don't disturb the mind or intelligence of others. So the words here in this are Janayet. Janayet means cause or give birth to. And the other one was Joshayet. The word Joshayet means, what is Prabhupada saying? Dovetail. So Joshayet means dovetail. No Janayet, Joshayet. Okay. Don't cause disruption, but just be Joshayet. Joshayet. Make them dovetail the process. So whole principle of bhakti is centered around this aspect. Vidvan yukta samacharan. Right. So Vidvan yukta samacharan means learned person engaged practicing. So what a learned person does, he knows how to engage people in Krishna consciousness according to their capacity, not according to what I want to give. Okay. By dovetailing, everyone will be elevated. So the goal is to bring people to Krishna. Those who cannot come directly, they should be gradually brought to Krishna. Okay. But then if they are not ready, don't try to push them unnecessarily. Okay. So here Krishna is acknowledging to Arjuna that even though renounced order is higher than the household order, but don't give up that action because that will disrupt the mind. Okay. So that's the essence of this verse. So sometimes it can happen that someone may say that, okay, I'm renouncing because of a higher call, because of a responsibility. Okay. But Krishna says that even if you are doing it for a higher purpose, people might misunderstand. And there might be no scope left for their further growth in their level. Okay. We should not be dismissive of other people's beliefs because that makes them threatened, that makes them feel threatened. So in essence, engaging people according to their inclination. Joshayet sarva karmani. This is an important principle as a parent, as a teacher, as a leader, as a devotee. We should be determined and enthusiastic to engage other people around. Okay. So people meditating in the Himalayas cannot be exemplars. People like you and me have to be exemplars. That's what Krishna is teaching us here. Prakrti kriya manani gunai karmani sarvasha ankara vimudhatma kartahamiti manyate. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. This concept of who is the doer is going to come again and again in Bhakti, in this process, in Bhagavad Gita, and you'll notice that Krishna will give us many views around it, right? So, for example, it's in 18th chapter. 18th chapter, in the 14th verse, Krishna tells that there are 5 doers. Adhishthanam tata karta karanam cha prathak vidha. So he gives 5: your body, the endeavor, different type of endeavors, the soul, your senses. There's one more. So it's 5. So this concept will come again and again as to who the doer is. But in general sense, for us to understand is that there are multiple causes of so I'm not the doer. I'm not alone the doer, but I'm the instigator. I'm instigating that activity, right? When a thief steals, he's caught by the police, and then he's sentenced to jail by the judge in the court. So all 3 of them are the causes, right? So thief stole it, the police caught him, and he went to jail. So, but then the police would not have arrested that person, or the court would not have sentenced that person if it would have not made the steal. So therefore, in that sense, the person's robbery is the initiating cause. Therefore, we have to take responsibility. Okay. But what here Krishna is saying is that here is a completely different, entirely different context. Here he is not talking about assigning karmic responsibility. Here he is taking in terms of taking credit of one's action. Okay. So what Krishna is saying here, don't take credit for your action unnecessarily. That's what Krishna is saying. So the word here is prakrti. So the word prakrti is material nature, as Prabhupada is saying. So whatever we are doing in this material, in this world, is through material nature. Even though I am a soul, I have to work under the material desires, right? So, but the material element is not under my control. So if whatever the material nature is doing, if I take credit for that, I am in ahankar. Ahankar thinks that I am the doer. Okay. So let's, for example, right, if I text somebody a message, and I feel that I'm doing it. No, there's a lot of technology involved. Your phone should be functioning, the connection, every so and so, whatever is there, the phone, they all should be working. So similarly, that's an illusion state where I think that whatever material nature is doing, I take credit for that. So that's what is being explained here. That don't take undue credit for things. Don't try to become, oh, I did it. Understanding that there are many other doers out there. Okay. So this is the way by which Krishna is explaining how not to be attached to things. Okay. By just doing the duty and not looking for the results and not taking credit for that, that puts you in a position of the Sakta and Vidvams, which we read in the earlier verse. So we become Vidvams and Asakta. So you become in that position by not taking credit for anything that you've not done it. So that's 27. So let's look at 28. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, O mighty aunt, does not engage himself in the sense and sense gratification, knowing well the difference between work and devotion and work for fruitive results. So tattva here, tattva, the word tattva-vid, he's saying. So tattva-vid, Krishna is saying, tattva-vid is somebody who knows the truth. So tattva means truth. Vid means the knower. So tattva-vid is somebody who's a knower of the truth. He's saying that if you truly know what the truth is, then don't engage yourself in sense and sense gratificatory activities. Understand that what attachment means, what affection means, and where you are a attached worker and where you are a detached worker. So Krishna is kind of giving the details. How do you do karma yoga? What does the practice of karma yoga look like? That is why this chapter is called Karma Yoga. Whereas the 5th chapter is also Karma Yoga, but that talks about Karma Yoga of a perfected being who's already perfected. Here, Krishna is teaching how you become perfected. So that's just the difference between the two chapters. We'll talk about it when we come more to. Okay, so oh yes, so Prabhupada is talking about a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam here. We talked about this concept of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan. We talked about a couple of ways to understand it. We talked about the train coming and the children looking at it and how they look at it different perspectives. So Prabhupada is talking about here, and he's saying that a Tattvavid is one who knows his relationship with Krishna. So that's a Tattvavid person. Any thoughts here? Any questions? Any comments? Anything on your mind?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, you gave that example about George Harrison, right? How he wanted to give up everything and become completely Krishna conscious and wanted to get initiated. I was just remembering in the Nectar of Instruction, I think so, text 8, right? We had studied that our actual purpose of life is to 24/7 engage ourselves in the Krishna consciousness, right? And that is the only way to get the abode, that is the Goloka, which is our ultimate aim, right? So, so when George Harrison was ready to give up everything, right, and be completely devoted and dedicated and be 100% in Krishna consciousness, why Srila Prabhupada did not encourage that? Because we are here to do our karma, what is assigned to us. But when we have done our karma, we know we can go above the karma and give ourselves completely to a particular cause, in this case, Krishna consciousness, when we know the real purpose of our life. Why not let that person, encourage that person? Why take, I feel like it was more like taking advantage of George Harrison's position at that particular time, right? Because he was famous. So it was like not thinking about him, but thinking about his position and using that position in the Krishna consciousness. But think about George Harrison, because he was still into that materialist world, right? It's very easy to get, I know with this position, we were spreading Krishna consciousness. I totally get that point. But think about George Harrison as a person. He wanted to be like, he was done what he had to do in his life, and he has whatever. And now he wanted to be completely dedicated to Krishna consciousness. Why Srila Prabhupada did not think him as a person and not as a position at that particular time, and got him completely into Krishna consciousness, like other Maharajas are here who are like totally into Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, you bring out a good point there. Yes. So, but the 8th verse of Nectar of Instruction, which says, Tannam Roop Charitadi Sukirtanano Pratyaya Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyachya Shan Rajeta Tanragi Janani Gami Kalam Nayakla Uttapadesha Saram. So the advice was to utilize one's full time in chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, qualities, forms, pastimes, etc. So engaging oneself completely in Krishna's service.
Yes.
Just imagine if Prabhupada would have let him give up everything and become a devotee. Would have he done more service to Krishna or less service to Krishna? Because, and I'm elaborating on that situation, he would have not have, let's presume, when he was George Harrison at the peak of his career, he might have 1 billion followers. But suddenly one day he says that I'm going to shave my head and I'm getting into the temple. Do you think he would continue to have 1 billion followers? No, he would not.
I agree that point, Prabhuji, but I was thinking from his personal perspective. Like, see, I know from karmic perspective, definitely he would have lost all his followers because he's following a particular religion. I totally get that point.
Well, it's not about losing the followers. It's about not being able to do his duty towards Krishna properly by losing those followers.
Mm-hmm.
If you let's say somebody come, for example, you are right. So let's say you say that I want to give up everything, but then you have a full-time job as a mother, or you have a 40-hour-a-week job also, and you have to give all that up. So would I be selfish enough to just think about myself, or would I be in a position where I'm ready to do anything that Krishna wants me to? There's a difference between that. What does Krishna want me to do versus what I want to do? For a pure devotee, is all about what Krishna wants him to. It's not about what I want to. It's never about me when it comes to a pure devotee. And similarly, Prabhupada, being an acharya himself, he knows how to engage everybody in the right service for their right growth in the spiritual path. Right? That's the way to look at it. It's not about me anymore. Yes, he might have thought that this was the right thing for him, but for Krishna's service, that wouldn't have been the right decision. And only an acharya can clarify that for us. I cannot do it myself.
Mhm.
That's the way to look at it. So it's not about me anymore. It's all about what Krishna wants from me. If Krishna wants me to be a king, I will be a king. If Krishna thinks that no, Prem, you are better as a beggar in the street, I should be ready to be a beggar, right? So just imagine that Krishna, here comes Sudama Brahman, and Krishna, he doesn't even ask, and Krishna gives him all that riches that he's looking for, that his wife is actually looking for. He's not looking for, right? And some places Krishna says, in the 10th canto, Krishna says that that if I'm really happy with something, I take away everything from them. I make them paupers. Like Avadhuta Brahman comes in the 11th canto. So what Krishna wants is important, not what the person wants what's important. And only a pure devotee like Prabhupada can tell us what Krishna wants and what will please Krishna, right? Because even the verse that you were quoting, so even there, the concept is about giving everything for Krishna's pleasure. There's no description of my pleasure in that verse number 8 that you mentioned of NOI. You're utilizing your full time for Krishna's service. Now, what is that service? That can be different for different people. Prabhupada, for some, Prabhupada said, even to some of the people, Prabhupada said, he wanted people to go to Russia and preach. They said, Prabhupada, there are no vegetables available there. Prabhupada even went to an extent saying that you go and eat meat and you preach there. It's not about me anymore. It's all about what Krishna wants. And Prabhupada could understand that if he will be doing a disservice to Krishna by following what his heart wants. And that Prabhupada didn't want him to do that. Was that helpful, Manji?
So, Prabhuji, if the spiritual master guides you to do a particular thing, we should be doing that. That's what the nutshell letter is like. That, as you mentioned, you meet also, which is like totally, completely no in Krishna consciousness. But if it,
You got it perfectly right, Manji. Whatever your teacher wants to do, you do that. No questions asked. That is why Arjun, when he was saying, he said, Karishe Vachanam Tava. I'll do what you have told me, Krishna. And it's not something that will happen to you overnight. It takes time. But you come to a position where you are saying, whatever my spiritual master wants me to do, I will do that. And that's a very, very elevated stage of a devotee. It might be even hard for us to comprehend that stage, but you are right. You rightly put it, that we just do exactly what the spiritual master wants us to do.
got it, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
And even in that verse that you quoted, once again, now that I think of it, it says, Tishthan vrajetat anuragi jananugam. Anuragi, the word anurag means to follow. Whom are you following? Under the guidance of devotees. You serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. So the word anuragi is also very important in that verse. Yes, spend your time for Krishna's service, but how do you spend the time? Is under the guidance of a devotee. Tishthan vrajetat anuragi jananugami kalam nayadakilam iti upadeshasar.
Yes.
So that's a very important aspect of it.
Yeah, that Anuragi.
Because my mind is so polluted and confused that it tells me, oh, this is right, you should do it. And then next day it tells me something else, and so forth. So I'm ignorant. I need somebody to tell me, no, Premdham, this is a foolish idea. This is better. You do this. And I just follow it because I have full faith on the message on my spiritual master. Very good point you put on. It's a very valid thought there. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Anything else on anyone's mind? Okay. So let's
Prabhu,
do...
you are on mute. Sankirtan Prabhu.
Sankirtan Prabhu, are you saying something?
Sankirtan Prabhu, you are on mute.
We can't hear you, Sankirtan Prabhu. I can hear you a bit, but your voice is very low. Oh, now I can hear you better. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
And I'm unmuted.
You're not on mute anymore. I can hear you.
Okay, so I have a question too, because if
you have to come close to your laptop.
Oh, can you hear me better now?
Yes, now it's better.
Okay, if someone is on the path and they're in their heart, they're very much surrendered and they are ready to shave up and do this activity. But at the same time, the one who's really directing all the activities with a higher perspective can, engage that person for his better benefit as well. Because if the whole thing that he wants to do is surrender to Krishna by shaving his head, which means he wants to position himself in what he sees that is the outgoing instruction. But the overall mass of his real betterment is to show others the greatness of his desire. And if he limits himself by taking on that position as a devotee outwardly, but if inwardly he's very much devoted, then Prabhupada could direct him for his betterment without the external demonstration. It's like you were saying, it's a very elevated position that one has to see what the wish of Krishna is and what that individual's best position could be. I mean, it's really special. I mean, that you bring that up, but for the overall mass, this is what Prabhupada wanted to do, is to capture others and bring them to his level.
Yeah.
So, but if doing something like that, Prabhupada would limit his association and cut that. Why disturb that when he knew in reality this person was very much elevated and ready to do that? It's really nice. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because it's very special.
Yeah, because you could look at it, yes, you very nicely summarized it, that it could be pride in my heart which is making me say, oh, this is the right thing for me to do. And I go and tell my spiritual master that, Maharaj, this is what I want to do, and I think this is the right thing for me to do. And then, but the spiritual master knows what is the right thing for me. I become a fool when I try to present that, okay, oh, this is what I want to do. This is how I think my growth will happen. So yes, so it can be coming from a platform of pride also in some cases. I'm not sure if it was for George Harrison, but in some cases it could be out of pride also, that I know what is right for me, so I should walk this path.
Yeah, I really like that idea. It's very nice. Like if you have to eat meat, that's insanity.
Yeah, that is insanity. Yeah.
But what is the highest goal? What is the real perspective we're trying to achieve?
Yeah, and that only an acharya can tell us.
Yeah,
it's practically impossible for us to understand that. For example, many years ago, somebody asked me this question. I was distributing books in a festival and said, how is right and wrong determined? How do you know what is right and wrong? I was telling him this is the right thing to do. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says. Then when I kind of thought on it, I realized that, yes, it's hard for us to determine what is right and wrong. At least for me, it is hard. So I need somebody's guidance. There are so many aspects to it. There is what's the intent behind it? What's the content? What's the consequence of it? Right? So it's for example, when Bhishma was, when Draupadi was being disrobed, Bhishma was right there in the assembly, and he could have said no. All he needed was just to stand up and say no. But he didn't say that, because he thought that, oh no, it's not right for me, because she's been won in a gamble, and so I should not stop it. So he was looking at what is the content of the whole situation. So that's how he was determining right and wrong. But for Krishna, consequence was more important, and therefore he came to save her. So Krishna knew what is the right thing to do, but for Bhishma, he got confused with that. So similarly, I can also get confused very easily trying to determine what is right and wrong for me. So we need this guidance from a self-realized soul to tell me that, okay, this is right, this is wrong. Yeah. So sometimes the intent becomes important, sometimes the content becomes important. We don't know that. Only a person whose mind who's become pure and clarified, and he can see things as they are, can tell us what is right and wrong. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. You had any more thoughts you wanted to share, bro? Your voice is still breaking again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you, bro.
Well, for many years, I always was doing activity, and this maybe I'm in the right spot right now, so that maybe I can get some clarification here. But I remember distinctly, I was at the New York Ratha Yatra at that park, and you know, I was always they never saw me at the parade. I would go there, but I would rush to set up a book stall. I would take a couple of soldiers, college kids that wanted to go, and I'd take them on a different route, and we'd go set up these tables. And I wanted to compete too. I was personally competing against Vaish, because he came from out of town, and he was directing another table at the tent. So I had some personal, excitement there. But Bhakti Tirtha came dancing off the parade, and there at the book table, and I saw him, so I got away from the book table, and I just went to greet him, because he was just a friend. He wasn't my spiritual master yet. And so he said, "Oh, so it's good to see you're doing this great distribution." I said, "Oh, no, it's all glories to Srila Prabhupada." And he said, "No." He said, "But you're doing it." And it confused me. It still confuses me, because maybe I was doing it, but I really was feeling like I wasn't doing it. I wasn't trying to be the guy doing it, but I was trying to think in my mind that the activity was something that I knew was most extremely paramount in Prabhupada's desire. So that's what I just did. I sort of locked my blinders around me and just did it. And so it made me think, well, I mean, am I doing it? Or he said, "Yeah, but you're doing it." And it's still today. I mean, what am I doing if I'm doing it? I mean, because here we're seeing that, if you really have it together, you're not really doing it. If you really have it together, others, I mean, the only reason you're doing anything is to encourage others on the path. So you're not really doing it anyhow, because it's a matter of where your consciousness is how you're subjugated to the reaction, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's still in my heart when he said, "But no, but you're doing it." It still rings in my mind a little bit confused.
Yeah, no, a true leader would put others in front, right? That's the way Krishna was teaching us. That he just became a charioteer. He said, "No, Arjun, you take all the credit for killing these people." So that's what Krishna is trying to explain, that here, don't become a doer. Just become an instrument in my hand. Get rid of all that false pride and that ignorance that's telling you that I know what is right, I know how it's to be done. I know what's wrong. And so just get rid of all that. Just listen to me. That is why after teaching the whole Bhagavad Gita, in the last chapter towards the end, he says, Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Forget everything and just surrender to me. And that's coming out of pure compassion. He's saying that don't fool yourself. Dharma, jnana, dhyana, meditation, sitting this way, closing your eyes and all that. Just leave everything. Come to me. Because I'm so confused and deluded in my old world that Krishna is saying, just leave everything and come to me. So that's something we, at least I hope I could in the future.
Yeah, well, and I'll just tell you one other quick thing. That, when we were distributing the books there at the festival, I would run out of books. And I'd have to go get more books from Vaish's table, which made him realize, oh my God, they're catching up to us. Because they had the stockpile and we had to go take from them a couple times. So he was excited, to see, oh, well, wait a minute. We better get going there. The soldiers are catching up to us. So it was like a transcendental program, because it was ecstasy. And New Yorkers are considered real intense individuals. And Krishna was just sending wonderful people that the books were flying out of there. So it was nice competition there. It was wonderful. And one year I didn't go because I had something else I was doing. And Ramapad told me, he says, where were you? I said, well, no one invited me. He said, no, you are invited for the rest of your life to come to this festival, and you will never get another invitation. You are automatically invited. They knew. We're supposed to distribute books too. It's a big party. It's a wonderful party. But there's some underlying current here that we have to keep going too. So it was really an amazing place, that New York, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. That was very sublime. Thank you for bringing it out. Okay, so we are already at 8:27. I won't get on to the next verse. Next 29 and 30 are very important verses. Need some time to go through them and discuss them. So I'll just leave them for the next week. But we summarized, I kind of summarized why Prabhupada calls it Bhagavad Gita as it is. Then we talked about how to, with ignorant people who are not at the same level as you are, Krishna is clearly telling us, don't derail them. Don't try to dump your philosophy on them. They're never going to come to bhakti. Right? You can bring a horse to the water, but you cannot make him drink. You can give somebody philosophy, but you cannot make them think. So don't do that. That's the takeaway message for today. Okay, I'll wrap her here. Anything else? Anything on your mind that you want to bring out? Anyone? We have a couple of minutes left.
Probably a quick question. What was that slok that you were like, this is the long and the short of it? The final words from the chapter 18 that you mentioned?
18.66.
18.6, okay.
Yeah, that says Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayasmi ma shusha. Don't fear, mokshayasmi, I'll liberate you. Just leave everything and come to me. Surrender to Krishna, listen from a pure devotee what Krishna wants, and just follow that path, and you're good to go back home.
Got it. Okay. So get rid of, okay. Don't even worry about knowing yourself, your soul, or this or that. Just focus on the Paramatma and serving the Paramatma directly. Chant his holy name, serve the Paramatma, and you're good to go, right?
I'm not sure in what context you're using the word Paramatma, but whenever I hear Paramatma, it means the Lord sitting in your heart. So as we talk, there is Brahman, there is Paramatma, there is Bhagavan. Paramatma is an incomplete realization of Krishna. So Bhagavan is Krishna. Complete realization of Shama Sundar, his two-armed form, is the complete realization. Paramatma is not complete.
So, sorry, I was synonymously using Krishna as the Paramatma, the super soul.
Okay, that's why I said because it's used in different contexts in different places. Yes, then it's okay. But generally, what we read about the yoga ladder, then we read about how that there are 3 stages of yoga ladder, which are related with the 3 forms of realization. In that, the word Paramatma is specifically meant for the Lord sitting in the heart. But then the Bhagavan concept is about complete Krishna, the Shama Sundar form.
Okay. So the Lord sitting in the heart, the Paramatma or the super soul Krishna, is that different from the Bhagavan concept, Prabhuji?
Yes, it is true.
Okay.
I can give a description of this if I can talk more about the Paramatma concept, what it means, and what's it. So in general, it comes in the 13th chapter. Krishna talks about this in the 13th chapter of the concept of Paramatma, and he says that the job of Paramatma is, I think it's 23rd verse of the 13th chapter. Upadrashtanu mantacha bharta bhokta maheshwara. So Krishna means he's saying that the Paramatma is Upadrashtanu manta. Upadrashta means he's a supervisor and he's a permitter. So the soul, the super soul sitting in your heart has a very specific purpose. There's a very specific reason why he has accompanied us into this body. So in that concept, the role of Paramatma is limited, even though he's part of Krishna, he's a part and parcel of Krishna. He's representing Krishna in my heart, but he has a very specific job to do. Whereas the complete form of Krishna, the Bhagavan concept, he is unlimited. He doesn't have any duties because he's Swayam Bhagavan.
Yep.
Right? So I can talk more in detail about it next time to give you a more clarity as to what's the role of Paramatma sitting in our heart. I can do that next week. But I just gave you one verse, and let me just quickly confirm also that is 1333. You can read it at your end, but I can also discuss it next time. 13:23. Yes, 23. I quoted the right. Yes, Upadrashtanu mantaja bharta bhokta. The 13:23 is where the purpose of the super soul Paramatma is given in Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That is really helpful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so we are 1 minute over the time, or a couple of minutes over the time. So thank you very much, everyone. I'll see you.